This is the second part of the pumpkin design, and this is the design, and we're going to pad it out. So this part here is this part here, and these two bits here are these two bits here. So I'm going to cut these out. Got some felt that we're going to use, and this is the felt because we're doing it in an orangey copper. So we're going to use a copper felt, and we're just going to cut that out now. So these are a sharp pair of paper scissors that I'm using here, and I'm just going to chop out each of the shapes. So here you've got two lines, so we'll do shape one. Just make sure that that lines up. Okay, so that's shape one. Right, let's pop that there. We'll do shape two, which is basically the same shape. I'm just going to cut each one of those shapes. So this is one, that's one. This is 2 layers, and this one is 3 layers. So this one here, I'm just going to place on top of that shape, okay? And then I'm going to cut out the rest of those shapes. So I'm just lying the pieces of felt that I'm cutting in place on the actual design as I cut them out, so I know where they go. I would never use my best scissors for cutting out the templates in paper unless I'd cut the templates out first. So I could actually cut each template out like that and then cut around it, but you never use your best scissors for paper. So that's all our felt templates cut out. This is 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers, 2 layers, 1 layer. And now we're going to actually sew them on. I'm leaving each of the shapes on until I'm ready to sew them on. And what I'm doing here is I'm just lining this one up with the very edge of the pumpkin outline. And I'm just going to come up on the outside and stitch into the actual felt. Like that. So we're coming up on the outside of the felt, and we're stitching into the felt area there. Now the other ones might jump about a little bit as we're doing this. Your stitches should be around about 1/8 of an inch apart, and that secures the piece of felt on extremely well. Now the thing with the felt is also, if it starts going off like that, you can actually just bring it back in because it's fairly movable at this point in time. So this one has been stitched on, and I have actually removed all the pieces because if I left them on they were jumping about a bit, so I've moved them all away. What you need to do is, this is the second area, so I need to lay 1 and then 2 over the top. So that's the second shape on, and now we'll just need to place this shape over that second one and stitch it on. Okay, so that's the second piece stitched on. and again I've put it right against the edge of the tacking line. Okay, so then we need to start with our middle piece, and again we start with the smallest piece, place it in the center there, and we'll stitch that on. So that's our fourth piece on, and then again I'm going to place the next piece, which is slightly bigger, over that one, and again in the center, just like that. Okay, so that's our next piece on, and then we're placing our bigger piece over and sewing that down. Okay, so that's the next two pieces on just here, and then we've got one left to put on. So that is all the felt pieces now attached. Just taking a piece of passing thread, and it's the green passing thread, or the 371 thread, and I'm going to just bring my needle up just here, and I'm going to just secure over the passing thread. I'm going to do this twice. I'm doing this with the green translucent thread. This secures it in place and makes sure that it doesn't go anywhere that it shouldn't. Okay, so then I'm just going to fill in this little area. I'm going to come up on this side to ensure that the loop goes close together, and then back down on that side, and that will pull the loop together, and then I'm going to bring it down this way and fill in this area here. Not right to the edge, but not far off. Okay, so just make sure that they're always flat, that they don't bend over, and we're coming down almost to the edge of the felt. I'm going to come along here and bring this round like that. And that's just twisted, so you need to make sure that it doesn't twist, and if it does, you can just gently pull them apart so that they twist the right way. Okay, so I'm doing small stitches, not too far apart. And I'm just going to pause it there and then show you which direction I'm going to be going in. So now you can see here I've just gone around this corner and then around this corner, and I'm going to go around and around to infill this area here. Okay, well, I've gone round and round and I've infilled the vast majority of that area now. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to plunge down the two threads of passing. Make sure that they lie fairly flat. I'm actually going to trim those off at the same distance there. Make it much easier for threading the needle. I'm going to poke those through. This is a darning needle. I call it a passing needle because I use it for the passing thread mainly, and that just now finishes off that area. Now this is just a base. This is not supposed to be a work of art. You're not going to see most of this. It is going to be covered. So it's really important when you've taken your threads through to the back that you actually oversew them. And you can see my stitching of all the pieces of felt here. So it's just going over and over again. Oops. So you secure it into place. You want to go over it about 4 or 5 times. Just secure it nicely into place. You're just going through the backing fabric, you're not actually coming through the front black silk fabric, so you might want to check that. And then once you've gone over it, you 4 or 5 times, you just snip off that end, and you can snip off this end quite tightly as well. And for this stage you need to take quite a few of your passing 371 thread, and you need to cut them around about the same length. So you want to do this with about 10 pieces. So there's all our pieces. I've actually cut about 12 pieces. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each piece down just around this edge here, just above the felt. So this is the first piece, like that. And you're going to just take these slightly apart, not very far apart, just like that, and leave them loose at the moment. So I'm just basically threading them through the needle like that, taking it down to the fabric and then pulling it through. So I'm going to do that with all the other ones. Okay, so there is all of our little stragglers. They're all plunged down just here along this edge, and what we're going to do next is we're actually going to attach them on the back to make sure that they're secured in place, just as we did with the end of the other one. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just take all of these strands here. I'm actually going to bring them over this way a little bit, and I'm going to start twisting them around like so. Okay, and that's what I'm going to do. So we're just going to place those there like that, and then we're going to just sew in a few of the strands. So just going to sew this one in here like that, and a couple in on this side. Make sure you get over them like that. So you can now see that the green that is behind is not particularly noticeable. It's actually used as more of a backdrop, and the pumpkin top does in real life twist around a little bit, so it's very effective. So what we need to do now is just around here we need to start plunging some of the pieces in. So I'm just going to hold that down like this because it actually bends around a little bit. I'm going to take this one here, take it out of all these because they're all slightly twisted together. I'm going to thread it up, okay, and I'm going to actually plunge it down just about there. Okay, there's going to be quite a few threads on the back, so it needs to be twisted again like that, and it's coming down here, you see. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that one a bit tighter, and I'm going to take quite a few of these ones in just here, and then we'll take it up here with about 4 strands then, and then we need to split them into 2 and 2 and then 1 to finish off. Okay, so I've just plunged quite a few down here behind here. Okay, and I'm just now going to take my thread and I'm going to stitch a little stitch just here. You don't need too many stitches. I'm going to take one down there. Okay, and then I'm going to take one just here. It's just to hold it in place really, it's not, you're not massively couching, it's to give it definition. So I'm going to twist this around again. And this time it's just going to come up to there. And then it's going to start splitting into the two pieces. So I'm going to do a stitch over that side and over this side. Okay, now your design has got a little swirl just here, so you need to take these swirls into consideration. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to just split this into 2 and a 2. Now I'm going to take that one over that way, and again twist them together. Okay, now you might not perfectly be following the lines, and that's fine. So I'm just going to come up here. I'm going to go over the two pieces here. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this one this way, and again go over the two pieces just there. And then we need to twist this. Make sure we're twisting in the right direction. And then just about there, we're going to do a loop after we've taken our thread down through the fabric. Okay, so I'm just going to stitch on both sides again. Like that, and then I'm going to split these two here. I'm going to take one down to the fabric. There we go, I've just posted that one through the eye of the needle, and I'm just going to take that down to the fabric. And then what we need to do then is we need to just create a little loop with this one just here, and we need to stitch that singularly over our thread. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then we're just going to trail it down around the rest of the line. So when you've got to the end of your little trailer just here, you then need to plunge the end through the fabric again. So we're just going to take the end through like that and just pull that down like that, and that's your trailer done. I'm just going to plunge that one down just here, then we can create our little loop just here, which is as per our design. There we go. And so that is our completed trailer on our pumpkin. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out the leather. So what I've done is I've traced that shape out there, made it slightly bigger down here, and we've also cut out, traced out this shape here. And what you just need to make sure that they seem to fit, and they do, because sometimes your areas can alter slightly, and if they have altered slightly, then you need to change your cuts. Okay, so I'm happy with those. What I'm going to do is take, okay, so here is my leather, nice copper, bright copper, but it looks very orangey, and I'm going to take my tracing, I'm going to go right side, and I'm going to slide them together, and then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to cut out the shape. So I'm just doing this by taking it around here like this, and then just make sure it lines up there. Sometimes it can go out slightly, and then cut it around here like this. Okay, so I've cut all the 3 shapes out. I've placed 2 just here, and this is the final shape, which is the main pumpkin part. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually stitch them on, and I'm going to stitch these 2 on first, and then I'm going to stitch this piece on. Okay, I'm going to place this piece of leather on here, taking the other pieces off. I'm just coming up on one side of the leather and down into the leather. I'm actually using a leather needle here. The leather needle has a triangular shaped blade and slices into the leather, whereas an ordinary needle just pushes into the leather. So this is the needle that I prefer to use to do this. Just putting little stab stitches into the leather all the way around until it's secured to the fabric. So after attaching these 2 smaller pieces, we're then going to place the bigger piece over, and we're going to stitch that all around. Now when you're stitching into these little areas here, do slightly bigger stitches. So I've just come up here and just going down there. I'm going to start at this bottom corner here, and then I'm just going to come around the edge here and then do another stitch here. Then I'm going to jump over to this side, and then I'm going to fill in the centre. So I have now attached a big stitch here and a big stitch here, and sewn all the way around here. Okay, so I've finished stitching the leather. I finished it nice and closely here and all the way around here. Got some big stitches in each one of the grooves, and 1 stitch there and 1 stitch there in the grooves. I've not stitched any of the top here going over the green area. This is a special twist 6, and it does have metallic content. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be starting each piece here and finishing each piece at the top of each one of the grooves. So this is my first groove, and I'm just going to go down just here at the bottom of this groove. I am actually using the larger plunging needle because this thread needs to go through the eye with no problem. Now I've taken my needle down once, and this is taking it down a second time. This won't go down easily. You will need to give it a good wiggle. Very good wiggle. And it will eventually go down. And so that is your thread going through the material. And next I'm going to show you how to stitch it on. So I'm just holding the thread down here, and I'm just bringing my needle up into the leather. If you use a leather needle, you will find this easy. So I'm going to bring it up there, and then I'm going to take it down just on the other side of that thread. Like so. And I'm going to bring it up here. Now what I do is I push my thumbnail very closely to So these are all the pieces sewn against and creating those grooves just before I plunge them down. Okay, so I'm doing the plunging in a slightly different way to the bottom. What I'm doing is I'm actually taking the needle through the fabric. You could do this also with a stiletto, and then because I'm creating such a large hole, I can just poke the thread through the hole, and this is making it much easier for plunging it through the fabric. Okay, so that's our grooves in place. So just to finish off, we're using the green thread again, and we're just going to plunge it down there, plunge it down here, up here and down here, and make sure we do these little swirls that are on our design here. Okay, now when you're taking the thread down, you want to just slightly plunge it into the edge of the pumpkin. So I'm just going to do that now, and then it just disappears underneath the very edge. So I'm going to pull those down and I'm going to sew it down. Okay, so there you go, our last little trundles just along the bottom. And finally, the last and most important thing to do is just check to see whether you can see any tacking stitches. Now the main reason why we put the tacking stitches in is if you drew the line on, you would never be able to get rid of those lines, but with the tacking stitches you can easily just take them out of the fabric. So you can cut them out, or you can just pull them out just like so, and then they'll be gone. Thank you very much for watching.